Good morning and welcome to the show. It's Monday morning, so you know what that means. I have Dr. Roman Nation here in the studio, and we're going to talk about your health. We're going to talk about medicine and maybe what it takes to become a doctor and how rewarding that is. Welcome back to the show, Dr.
Morning,
Nation. Yeah. You know, we were talking off camera about starting your own practice. Now, I know you were an Air Force doc, and that's where I think I first met you, at Tyndall. And then you got out of the Air Force and you started your own practice. That's like starting up a whole new business, isn't it?
It's exactly just like starting a whole new business. Yeah.
And like any business owner knows, you really don't make any money in the first year or two.
Not for a long time.
Yeah.
We were sweating bullets for quite a while, but we started really tiny. And the problem I had with and why I ended up doing it on my own is because when I was getting out of the military, I approached at least a half a dozen other docs, both some that were younger and some that were older, talking about wanting to retire, and said, hey, well, I'll come and join with you and pay my dues and, work into a partnership kind of thing. No, we don't want to do that, is how the whole thing ended up working out. And that, after, kind of running into some dead ends, 6 times, it wasn't an unreasonable approach in my opinion, but I just ended up saying, okay, I guess, I got to do this on my own because one group wanted me to work full time to the point where I could never see my kids, and then the other group, wanted to do things that the way that I don't like to practice medicine.
So it really kind of forced your hand to do your own thing.
I wish I could have done it a different way, but it just didn't work out that way.
It's funny though. Most people think, you doctors are loaded. You make so much money, and not necessarily so, is it? Especially starting out.
Not even close. We there are so many red tape things to go through for insurances like Medicare and Blue Cross and Aetna, and you have to go through each and every single insurance for that. Even since people knew me from the military, so I had a bit of a following, but I couldn't even see them through their insurance because the insurance companies took 4 to 6 months to get me on their, like, okay, fine, you can see him now. Well, you're okay to see him at Tyndall, but when I got out on my own, same doctor, nope, doesn't matter. Whole different process.
So you got to have this whole administrative staff.
Oh yeah,
to kind of chase the money down, don't you?
More than 30% of the overhead is all behind the scenes stuff. I have 3 different people that only deal with insurances and billing and stuff like that.
And those aren't real, like. Now, say you were an attorney, say you were a lawyer, and you had this administrative staff that was doing things. Those are billable hours.
Yeah.
In a lawyer's world.
Yep.
I mean, they're making phone calls, sending faxes, whatever.
Yeah, back and forth. Yeah.
Not so much with a doc, is it?
No, none of that ever gets reimbursed from the insurance perspective. So all of that is just overhead that you have to kind of suck up and eat. While you're busy trying to take care of patients.
That's just the cost of doing business. And after all, it is a business. I mean, you may have entered medicine for altruistic reasons, to help people. Yeah. But when it really gets down to it, if you're going to survive, it's got to be
everybody has to have a paycheck in order to do
nobody
it.
Works for free.
Right. Although it's kind of ironic how we have
except for me, of course, in the show.
We do.
I do kind of work for free.
The funny thing to me is that a lot of people in medicine, the system is wired incorrectly to begin with, but a lot of people go to the doctor thinking that that there's some sort of altruistic money that's just behind us, and there isn't. Unless it's a state-funded health clinic type thing where somebody else is paying their paycheck. Everything has to come from a community effect.
Nothing's truly free.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, someone's paying for it.
Yeah, it comes from somewhere, and we don't run extravagant stuff, and we don't try to overcharge patients and things like that. So we have a lot of overhead just trying to pacify folks and insurances.
Yeah. And not only that, and it isn't just the overhead and all, but just the process to become a doctor.
Yeah.
There are certain milestones you have to hit that are very expensive milestones.
Yes, they are.
So you incur a considerable amount, unless you're loaded.
Unless you come from money.
Educational debt.
Yep.
And that's pretty much a fact of life for most doctors, isn't it?
They, that's one of the reasons why the trend of going into medicine is kind of weaning down to a large extent. The population is growing, so the overall pool of people applying to medical school has not dwindled off very much. But when you look at the population growth compared to the amount of people that are trying to go into medicine is actually getting smaller.
Is it really? So proportionally, there are going to be less doctors available in the future.
Yeah, well, especially in primary care. When you get into primary care for folks that are like everyday docs to try and handle your majority of your stuff, the trend in medicine is to go to the expensive stuff, like dermatology and orthopedics or surgery, procedural-based medicine, where the reimbursements are significantly higher, so you can work about the same and make 2 to 3 times as much money, or work less and make the same amount of money as somebody who does primary care.
Yeah, so just being a country doctor isn't all that lucrative, is it?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, long gone are the days where folks would trade in chickens and stuff like that, and a bartering system.
So if I show up with a chicken at your practice, you won't take it?
No, it'll probably make some other people sick.
Yeah, I got to run off to the local weather, but I'd like to talk about this a little more on the
Sure.
other side of your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation, and we're talking about what it takes to become a doctor and how to start a practice. It's really a long process, isn't it? I mean, it's a lot of hard work that goes into medical school, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And
the volume of medical school was unreal. I mean, I was really good in high school and studied decently and got really good grades pretty easily. College wasn't all that bad, but the sheer volume of information that we got in medical school was almost about tenfold.
Wow.
We were going through and had to literally memorize about 1,000 pages a month in medical school when we started.
So it is a lot of study time.
Yeah.
And
we lived at the school or Starbucks or wherever you could study in the cadaver lab. I mean, yeah, you barely saw the light of day.
Hanging out and studying in the cadaver lab. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I guguess it's pretty quiet in there.
Yeah,
that's when people make a noise.
It
in the
was.
cadaver
There's a
lab,
distinctive smell that
Yeah.
you don't forget. But yeah, I mean, that's what most of them did.
And it's an expensive proposition. I can only imagine what the textbooks cost.
Yeah.
What tuition costs, all the other things that go. Not to mention the cost of living. You have to survive.
Yeah. I had the benefit of the military paying for my medical school, so I actually collected a paycheck while I was in med school. But lots of other folks, they go through med school and come out with another $100,000 to $200,000 in debt just from medical school alone, not counting the amount of money they have to borrow from college. For their bachelor's degree.
undergrad,
You have to have a bachelor's degree first, and then you get selected for medical school. And then not only that, but to get into medical school, you have to take the tests and things like that. So if you have any sort of trouble with test taking, then you have to, buy tutoring and things like that, and all these other prep courses to get you ready so you can take the test. To apply to medical school, to have a chance at getting an interview to going to medical school. I mean, it's a very, very, very selective process.
I would imagine it's very competitive as well.
Yeah. Depending on the schools that you go to, especially in the U.S. I mean, lots of people want to go to school in the U.S.
Sure.
There's a lot of programs now that are overseas or down like in the Caribbean and in South America and things like that, where you can get an undergrad or a medical degree, and if you study enough and you can take some extra stuff and qualify to test here in the U.S. or apply for a U.S. residency to do that.
So that may be a venue for some docs,
Right.
I suppose, offshore schools. But there is a certain cachet or prestige of going to a U.S. school, I would imagine.
Yeah, most people don't. I don't put my degree up on my wall.
Yeah.
Most people don't ask me where I went, but some do.
Yeah, I guess they would. Now, if a young person wanted to become a doctor, or maybe there's a mom or a dad out there who's watching this now, would you recommend it to a young person nowadays? Or would you just caveat that with several things?
The thing I always talk about, folks, is if you want to make money, medicine is not the place to do it. If money is your entire goal, then there's lots of other ways of making money a lot easier. But my philosophy is always do what you would do if you weren't getting paid for it, and then the money will come along.
So money's always secondary. Just do what you get pleasure from, what's rewarding to you.
Yeah, and that's, from the medical side of things, that's actually a very fulfilling way to lead life, is if you're doing something that you can get engrossed in, and it's much easier to find something you like to do and turn that into a way to make money than it is to find a job that makes money and turn it into something you like to do. Those two do not match up. You go the other way. You find something you like to do, and then that eventually can turn into something that makes money.
And we've all had jobs like that too. Have you ever seen the movie Office Space, where they're where they're conspiring ways to get out of there somehow because your life is so miserable.
Yeah. The life of Dilbert, cubicle hell.
You're living in that little cubicle. You don't have days like that, do you?
No. I have different sets of headaches with insurances and stuff like that.
But I would imagine every patient is kind of a new challenge.
They are. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have new patients coming in all the time, and the way that we do things, a lot of folks enjoy how we approach medicine, which is glad why I ended up doing it on my own, because like I said, we're very unique in how we approach folks.
So you're doing your own thing. You're running your own business. You're running your own practice.
Yep.
You're the master of your own destiny, I would imagine.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot of other forces that are pulling at you.
Yes, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, Dr. Roman Nation, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing these personal insights with us.
You're welcome.
And we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Shock absorbers and struts wear out pretty slowly, but you shouldn't take them for granted. Your shock absorbers and struts do a very important job, and you need to pay attention to them. Shocks and struts keep your tires on the road, and your tires are what allow you to safely handle your car through turns, over bumps, and even stop in time. When your shocks are worn out, your tires bounce excessively over bumps. The car will lunge forward when you brake, it'll lunge backwards when you accelerate, and overall give you poor performance and poor handling. All of this hurts the ability for you to control your car and wears down on other suspension parts. Replacing worn shocks and struts saves money in the long run. We generally recommend replacing shocks and struts at 50,000 miles. Sometimes special needs arise for heavy-duty shocks. If you do a lot of towing or if you do a lot of hauling, a standard shock won't be sufficient. You need to come in and let us replace it with a heavy-duty shock. This will give you more stability and more control while you drive your vehicle. If you own a performance sports car, you need to have performance suspension and performance shocks and struts to give you the extra handling around the corners and curves. It's really a matter of safety. Lastly, experts advise replacing all 4 shocks or all 4 struts at the same time so you have the same stability and same control at all 4 wheels. I'm David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247 and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neuro Pain Specialists. And thanks for coming. Did I say that right? Spine and Neuro Pain? Okay, good. All right, I got it right. You know, we were talking with some friends the other night who had were experiencing some back pain, and I know that back pain and weight have a relationship, don't they? And
Sometimes.
it's a chicken and egg type thing for a lot of people, isn't it?
It is. You know, I see a lot of patients who feel like, you know, their back wouldn't hurt if they would lose 2 or 3 pounds or 20 pounds or 50 pounds. And I think sometimes that's true. I think weight loss for general overall health is a good thing. But, you know, oddly enough, I've also seen patients that have been quite heavy, that have undergone gastric bypass or lost 50, 100 pounds, and their back actually hurts worse.
Wow.
Which I don't, that's anecdotal observation. I don't have any data for that, but it is interesting. But I do think that weight loss and core stabilization certainly can help. But I also think it's important to do it in stages because you know, too many patients come in and say that I need to lose weight and I need to go run a mile or do whatever I need to do to exercise, but my back hurts too badly, so how am I supposed to do that? And I think it's important to try to, let's first treat the pain, treat the problem, see if we can improve your function, and then we can go talk about weight loss. I feel like if we set too many goals at one time, then it just becomes stressful for everyone and maybe prematurely.
But you doctors are miracle workers. I should be able to walk into your office and say, Doc, fix me. I want to lose weight. I want my back to feel better. Come on, let's go.
You know, in a perfect world, I wish it were that easy. Unfortunately, we've become a society of immediate gratification. So, when it comes to managing different types of pain issues, sometimes it's taken patients years to get into these situations. And I always, you know, try to educate them as part of their treatment plan that it's taking you some time to get into this situation. It's going to take some time to turn it around.
Yeah.
But certainly, you know, weight is a big issue for many folks, and we've had some success in being able to help folks achieve their weight loss goals. But in my opinion, I think it first comes with trying to get someone feeling better, trying to get their pain under control, and then I think it makes it easier for folks to get out there and try to shed a few pounds where they can.
But I guess it's really not a rule. I mean, if we were to draw the little Venn diagram, you know, not all people who are overweight have back pain. Not all people who have back pain are overweight. But I would think those two kind of overlap. And there may be a lot of people who are overweight that have back pain.
Absolutely, and you know, that's always room for a future study. But I definitely see folks that are overweight that have lost weight and feel much better. whether it's just general overall health and having more energy or because their back feels better. I've absolutely seen that.
Yeah, and I know it's generally accepted that if you're carrying around a lot of extra weight, it's just hard on your joints, period. Not just your back, but your knees, ankles, all that other stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, I think the less weight we carry, certainly the better for ergonomics and overall well-being. But it is interesting. I do see sometimes folks where they do lose quite a bit of weight and they tell me their back hurts worse, which I just don't have an explanation for that. But I think the take-home message for patients is just to set a reasonable priority and a realistic goal. Realize that it's going to take time to control your back pain, try to restore your function, and do the weight loss as well. It just takes a little bit of time.
If you're experiencing some back discomfort or back pain, what should you do? Should you run right to you right away or right to your doctor? Or does everyone experience back pain at some time or other?
Well, sometimes, I think most folks at some point in their life probably have some episode of neck or back pain. I think, I guess I would say common sense would probably weigh in there. If you're overtly concerned about it, it's your leg is numb or arm is numb or you're having some weakness, then absolutely I think you should seek immediate medical attention. If you overdid it cleaning out the garage and you have a little bit of an ache or pain and it goes away in a couple days, then, I think you just got to use your own best judgment there. But certainly if things are progressing and not getting better over several weeks or several days and it really has you concerned, then absolutely I certainly advise people to seek medical attention.
This is all anecdotal, but when I was younger and I had hair and muscle mass and I would do more physical work, and when I actually physically worked, I would get backaches, I had lower back pain. And now that I'm kind of a carpet walker and I'm not doing that much physical work any longer, I don't really have that anymore.
Well, and that's good. And some folks are like that. And I think that touches on another key point is just moderation. A lot of times we work 100 hours a week and then we become a weekend warrior on the weekend. And sometimes that feast or famine kind of approach to activity can also set you up to have injuries and other things that you may or may not want. So your point is well taken that moderation is a good thing.
Moderation is the key. Dr. Aaron Shores, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next week. And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I have Thomas Winterman. You may know him from his book, The Thrive Life. But he's also a clinical counselor. Thomas, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
You've been giving us these weekly tips on how to have a thrive life or how to live a better life or how to self-improve yourself. What is our tip for the week?
For this week, it would be don't skip step one.
Don't skip. You would think step one would be a logical place to start.
That's right. That's right. Don't skip it. Step two for goal setting is setting goals, figuring out where you want to go. Step one, which nobody really wants to do, is a real thorough self-evaluation of who you are and where you are currently.
So this actually could work in almost any endeavor. Maybe you're planning a new business, or maybe you're planning a trip, or maybe you're planning whatever in your life. Instead of going to step two, sit back and try and apply that self-evaluation. Now, what do you do with that information? So you sit back and what are the questions I need to ask myself during step one?
The first thing is, who am I? You want to try to think of some ways to describe yourself, some adjectives, some messages that you're sending with the way that you're living. And that was, for me personally, what helped me, what started me with my moment, was when I realized that my messages that my behavior was sending wasn't what I wanted to send. When I was fat, when I was lazy, I was sending these messages that I don't care, that I don't ever want to do anything important with my life. And when I realized where I was and who I was, that was the catalyst for me to go and set goals and achieve those goals.
So you have to be brutally honest with yourself, don't you?
It's necessary.
I mean, some people, they get into this whole, self-deception that it's okay to be the way I am. That's too bad, you know? And when you really know in your heart of hearts, maybe it's not okay.
Right, and not liking where you are or who you are is a prerequisite for change.
All right, so that self-evaluation can help you not like yourself.
That's right.
To help and set you up for better change, I suppose.
That's right. It gives you more motivation. You're more likely to go after your goals better that way.
I sat down and thought about it, and it was like, man, I suck. I gotta do something about that.
That was me.
Yeah, and it worked out for you, though.
It has so far, yes.
Because you were making excuses, weren't you, at
one
point? You were like, it's okay to be overweight. It's okay to be kind of lazy. And you just said to yourself, no, it's not.
That's right.
and then you're on to step 2.
That's it, which is goal setting and figuring out where you want to go and who you want to be.
Yeah, and what were your goals? Did you set a whole bunch of them, or were they just 1 or 2?
Just 1 or 2 to start off with, and then once you sort of get the idea, once you understand what it is, and it's not so much setting goals, oh, I want to lose this much weight, oh, I want to go back to school for this long. It's more about having control over your life and not letting outside influences or other people control who you are anymore.
Well, it's a great tip for the week. Don't forget step 1, because acknowledging that you have maybe issues and you're not perfect is probably the next step toward being a better you and leading a Thrive life.
That's right.
Thomas Winterman, thanks so much for coming on the show and giving us that Thrive tip for the week. And we'll see you next time.